The Distinguished Service Ruby Award is the most prestigious recognition presented by Epsilon Sigma Phi. The Ruby Award is designed to recognize truly outstanding thinking, performance, and leadership in Extension. It was established in 1927, and since that time, more than 80 outstanding leaders in Extension have been recognized. The recipients have made highly significant contributions to state, regional, national, and international Extension programs in a variety of ways over a career that spans a lifetime. We have one past Ruby winner with us, and Jim Lindquist, wherever Jim's at. Jim, please stand and take the stage. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Karen Bruns as this year's recipient of the Epsilon Sigma Phi Distinguished Service Ruby Award. Dr. Bruns spent 33 years in a career working with Ohio State University Extension, starting as a county family and consumer science educator and culminating her career as Assistant Director for Family and Consumer Sciences and leader of OSU Cares. In the Assistant Director role, which she had held from 2011 to 2015, she provided leadership to a program of over 200 faculty and staff who focus on healthy people, healthy finances, and healthy relationships. Since 1996, she also gave lead to developing and implementing OSU Cares, Ohio's initiative. This extension-led initiative serves to catalyze interdisciplinary teams that partner OSU Extension with colleges across Ohio State University to expand the outreach and engagement of the university. Through OSU Cares and her other work as an Extension professional, she has been committed to using the power of knowledge to help communities address issues. That passion was evident from 1996 to 2010 as she served as leader in the Office of Ohio State University Outreach and Engagement. In that position, she gave leadership to the implementation of Ohio State's vision and plan for redefining the university's commitment to communities as developed by the university-wide ad hoc committee on university outreach. Dr. Bruns facilitated and supported this committee of university leaders and many other committees of faculty and administrative leaders to strengthen Ohio State's commitment to engagement. She has been an active participant and leader in the national conversation on university engagement and a voice for the role of Extension. Dr. Bruns has been a member of the Ohio Alpha Eta chapter of Epsilon Sigma Phi since 1987 and has served as their chapter president. She has been an active ESP committee member on both state and national levels, serving on the National ESP Membership Recruitment and Retention Committee and the National ESP Marketing Committee. Recently retired from Ohio State University Extension, Dr. Bruns is still engaged in leading and assessing the OSU Cares initiative, the work of the Academy of Community Engagement Scholarship, and volunteer work within her community. Dr. Bruns was inducted into the Academy of Community Engagement Scholarship, ACES, one of only 14 engagement leaders from across the United States accepted in the inaugural year of the National Academy. Additionally, she has chaired the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities Council on Engagement and Outreach. Please help me welcome our 2015 ESP Ruby Award recipient, Dr. Karen Bruns, with her lecture, which is titled Extension Professionals, the Answer People or the Question People. Dr. Bruns.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here, and it's quite an honor and definitely a surprise when I won this award. It meant a great deal to me to be recognized by my colleagues in Ohio because they know my flaws as well as my strengths. So I really appreciate this opportunity. But I never expected it, especially when I was a program assistant in my home county. Especially the second summer when I showed up at the office and I was met by the local educator who said, "Oh shoot, Kieran, I forgot you were coming in today. Let me go get your desk." She returned about a half hour later with a card table from the Junior Fair Board office. And so it was a really good thing I went back to school, before the fair started, because I would not have had a desk. But all I ever wanted to be was a county educator. And I wanted to do that because I knew that knowledge made a difference. If people had knowledge, they could change their world. And I saw being an extension agent that possibility. But I was so lucky to have people see that I had skills and talents that I could use in other ways. So I had the opportunity to work university-wide in outreach and engagement, to be involved in some national conversations around that effort, and also to be a program leader. So I really appreciate the honor and the opportunity that comes with this award from ESP. And it really means a lot to me that it comes from ESP, because I have participated in the meetings over the years. And I think one of my first meetings was when Jim was the Ruby Award winner. And I remember how it was so great to have that conversations across program areas and across responsibilities within Extension. So I really appreciate that this comes from ESP. I want to thank the people who are here today. I want to thank Greg Davis, who is our interim director for OSU Extension, Ohio State University Extension. So the Oregon State people or the Oklahoma State people, when I say that, I mean Ohio State University. But Greg, who is our interim director and also a long-term friend and colleague. I want to thank Bruce McVeron, who is our Dean of College Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences, and Vice President at Ohio State, for coming here and supporting our Ohio chapter at this meeting. But I also want to really thank my Ohio colleagues, the Alpha Eta chapter members who are here. A lot of my career has been spending my time operationalizing ideas that people had. And one of those major aspects of that was the partnering across campus, and how Extension could be a partner with our colleagues across campus. But one of the things that I really appreciated about my colleagues over the years is when I would get a phone call from a colleague in another part of campus who said, oh, we want to partner with Extension, we have this great idea, can we do this? I'd pick up the phone and call one of my colleagues in Ohio Extension and say, hey, this faculty member has this idea. Are you interested in partnering? Would you talk to him? And I always got a yes. So their commitment to their communities and making sure that through Extension we make a difference. Their commitment to the scholarship of the university and the scholarship of Extension. And their commitment to making sure that we can make an impact in our communities has really been what has been able to make Ohio Extension viewed differently across our university, but also across our state. And they made my job a whole lot easier. So I really want to thank them. But I also want to share that this award has been a real honor. And it has been one of the biggest challenges I've ever had in my career. And Jim's shaking his head, so he understands what that means. So when I got this award, some friends of mine said, well, this is your chance to reflect upon your career in Extension. That's 37 years. So it seemed like every walk I took this summer, every drive I made this summer, I was thinking about my career in Extension and how things had changed. And it's not so much that I was thinking about how Extension had changed, because I'm not sure when it comes to our core mission that we've really changed that much. But I was really thinking about how I had changed. How I had changed about my thinking about Extension. So I'm going to tell you a few little stories, tell you about some of the scholarship and literature I've read over the years that has changed my thinking. But let's start from the beginning. And don't worry, I'm not going through all 37 years about this. But when I started within Extension, I was not what you would probably consider your typical Extension educator. So how many of you were in 4-H? Hold up your hand. How many of you were 9-year 4-Hers? A lot of hands. I'm a 3-year dropout out of 4-H. Family vacation interfered one year with 4-H judging, and as I tell my Ohio colleagues, I am not the least bit competitive. But if I could go to judging and win, why was I going to go? I'm not competitive at all. So that was one piece of it. So I'm not the typical 9-year 4-H'er who decides to become an extension educator. How many of you went to a land-grant university for your undergrad? I did. I went to the University of Dayton. And UD has, as a part of its mission, it's a private institution in Ohio. And part of its mission is linking the learning and scholarship with leadership and service. So I was conditioned early on to look at social justice and to be involved. Okay, how many of you went into extension because you knew you could make a lot of money? I did. Okay? So I was going to go into another aspect of home economics. When my high school home ec teacher said, go into extension, they pay a whole lot better. So I went into extension instead. But when I started thinking about it, extension was the perfect match for my values, my interests, and my career aspirations. So I remember sitting at OSU Lyman campus one day when I was a junior in high school, taking the career aptitude test. And when we got the results back, it said extension agent with my career piece. So does anybody else have that? So I'm probably not your typical extension educator, but it was the perfect job. It matched my goals, it matched my aspirations, it matched my desire to really make a difference and to use knowledge, because I always believed that through knowledge, obstacles can be overcome and opportunities just abound. So that was the reason that I ended up going into extension. And I also went into extension. They took a lot of time to find my slides, so I better start using them. All right, who of you lived in Ohio, lived in Indiana at one point in time during your life? Anybody here? Okay. Who was in Indiana during the 60s and 70s? Okay, I'm going to explain to you a commercial which I remember when I was a child. Now we'll see if anybody else has the same remembrance of this commercial. We had 4 TV stations when I grew up. I grew up in Western Ohio. One of the stations was run Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I knew extension was about the answers because of the Purdue Extension commercial that would run on that TV station. And this is what I remember it looking like. So those of you who were in Indiana at the time and don't remember this, or remember something different, we'll talk about it later. Not right now. But what I remember was this logo that said Purdue Cooperative Extension. So I knew extension was about the university. And then it had all these little feet underneath the logo. So I knew extension was about the people. So it was about the people in extension as well as the people within the community. And then in addition, I remember them saying that Purdue Extension were the answer people. And so I knew that that was going to be my future role, to help to give people the answers. So when I went into the county and was working, I remember those first phone calls I got, sitting on coalition meetings, working in the community. And really my thought was, how do I get the answers to the people? How do I share what we know with the people? But as my career progressed, and I moved into especially university-wide outreach and engagement, I really began to ask myself, am I the answer people, or am I the question people? And what really should be my role within the community? And when I look at that, I really question what should be my role in asking questions around 3 specific areas. The first one being the wicked problems that our communities were facing. What questions do I need to ask around those? Secondly, what are the questions as it relates to the scholarship of the work that we do in Extension? And third, what are the questions we need to ask about the impact that we have in our communities? So let me explain that a little bit further. One of the first things when I worked in university-wide outreach and engagement, I did a lot of reading about this work. And one of the authors at the time was Donald Schoen from Syracuse. And he wrote about the wicked problems in society in the 1990s. He wrote a book called The Reflective Practitioner. And he really talked about the challenges that we face in communities, and that when we as universities are partnering with the community to look at these issues, we're in the swampy lowlands. And that space is messy. There's lots of problems, there's lots of challenges. For us as university professionals, it's very challenging because it's hard to connect the rigor and the relevance. If any of you have done research in the community, it is just plain messy. It is difficult to have control groups, intervention groups, because we know that they are not in confined areas. There's factors that are impacting them. It is messy work that we do when we work in the community. And it's called that swampy lowlands. But he also referred to those wicked problems that we face. That was not a new concept. In the 1970s, Riddle and Weber wrote about the wicked problems and the complexity of those issues that are facing society. And last week I was just at the Engagement Scholarship Conference and saw a book from 2011 that I need to pick up and read. I hadn't read it yet, maybe some of you have. It's called Swans, Swines, and Swindlers. Coping with the growing threats of mega crises and mega messes. So when we think about it, whether we call them wicked problems or we call them mega messes, the challenge is the problems we are facing in our communities are like this plate of spaghetti. There's lots of different things that all intertwine on that plate in terms of the problems that we're facing. Nothing is clear-cut. You move one strand and the other strands move around. You have spaghetti sauce over the top of it. If you take one strand, the meatball may move to the other side. You know, it's just messy. It's not clear-cut. And this really came home to me when I was working in outreach and engagement and met with an associate dean in medicine. We were trying to figure out how we tied together our efforts at the university around health and wellness. And so Ron was coming over to my office and we were meeting, and I said, "Oh, how'd your day go?" He goes, "Well, I was downtown today. I was on the east side." And in Columbus, the east side has some very low-income, high-risk communities. And he goes, "I was there with the mayor and we were kicking off an initiative on childhood obesity." I said, "Oh, how'd it go?" "Well, it was going well until..." He said they had a conversation in the community and we're talking about what the university was going to do and how we were going to address childhood obesity, and kids needed to get outside more and play more and be more active. And one of the grandmothers in the community came up to the mayor and said, "That's a nice idea, but fix the drive-by shootings before I send my grandson outside." To her, there was no way her grandson was going to go outside and play in the play yard or go to the local yard, gym or rec center or whatever, because she was more concerned about his safety and the crime that was in the community. And that really registered with me, that the problems we have in our communities are very complex. A simple fix to it does not solve the problem. We're dealing with this in all of our states, whether we're dealing with water quality issues, childhood obesity issue, fracking that is occurring in some of our regions that have high energy content under the soil, food security issues, food access. All of these are very, very complex issues. And the challenge for us within Extension is how we ask the questions to get to what the root of the problems are. How many times have you seen what happened to our mayor happen in our Extension programs? We go in with one program, and here, we're going to share this knowledge, and then find out the problem is totally different. I had that happen to me as a young educator when I was working in the area of helping metropolitan housing residents get their own new housing. and buy their homes. I was so excited one night because we were working with this group over a course of a year, and that night they had all been approved for their loans to buy their homes. And there was a dull sense in the room. I was like, what is going on? I finally said, why are you folks not happier? You just got approval for your loans. And one of the residents looked me in the eye very solemnly and said, I'm scared to death. I can't believe somebody is trusting me this much. The problem was not about how do you solve, help them be able to manage their debt or how to pay their mortgage. The problem was building a sense of confidence that they felt comfortable with this. It really changed my setting and was a very good lesson for me as a young educator, because my middle-class white woman value would have been, why didn't they give me more money? Instead, he was scared to death about that. So when it comes to these various challenges and the issues we have, the challenge for us is really to ask the questions. What are the problems in our communities? And the way in which we need to do that is really spend some of our time researching and understanding, bringing to the table our community partners who have an understanding of what is going on, and also treat them as equal partners. I remember being at a national meeting once when one of our local community partners was at the meeting, and she was co-presenting on a project we were doing. And I went up to her afterwards and I said, oh, this is great that you're here. I'm so glad you came to this. And I knew her quite well, and she looked at me and she said, can't believe everybody's asking me that question. I'm a partner. Why wouldn't I be you? And it made me think, I said I treated my partners as equal partners, but was I really treating them as an equal partner? In terms of just that conversation that I had with her. So I really appreciated that conversation that we had. The other piece is, how do we partner with our colleagues across campus? I've heard many times us talk about, those campus people, they don't understand what's going on. I so loved working university-wide in outreach and engagement because I learned far more from my colleagues than I ever thought I would. Sitting down with a faculty member who has a passion and an interest in a particular area and having them share what they know taught me so much. And I so regret when I was a county educator of not having called a state specialist more and said, hey, just talk through with me what you know about this, so that the two of us could integrate our different knowledges to come up with those conclusions. The other thing that I really challenge us to do is to learn from each other in this room. One of the things that fascinates me about Extension, which I think we are better able to do than any other organization in the country, is the fact that we look at issues from so many different areas. So family and consumer sciences, yes, we may call it family and consumer sciences, but I, as a home economist, look at things from the consumer perspective. That's where my mindset is coming from. My colleagues in agriculture are looking at it from the production or the logistics end. My colleagues in 4-H may be looking at it from the youth perspective and how we prepare youth. And my colleagues in community development are looking at it from a business policy perspective. Think of what that power is when we bring all of that together to talk about food access. What other organization has those different mindsets together to look at those? But the challenge we have is to listen to each other. Sometimes I'm not sure we're very good at that. We say, yes, we want you to be on the committee, but do we really listen and take to heart what our colleagues are saying that may be a very different perspective than what we have? So I challenge us to do that. The second piece that was really critical in my career was when Ernest Boyer came out with the book, Scholarship Reconsidered. This was in 1990, where he redefined and challenged us to think more creatively about scholarship. And that scholarship is not just research, teaching, and service, but it's the scholarship of discovery, the scholarship of integration, the scholarship of teaching, the scholarship of application. And in 1996, he came out with the Scholarship of Engagement. So it's really looking at our work and how we think about it. And then followed by that was the book Scholarship Assessed. So I don't know if any of you have read Scholarship Assessed, but Glassick, Murniff, and Huber went and looked at how we evaluate scholarship in higher education, whether it's journal articles, grant applications, whatever it may be. And they found that what the common thread was that we looked at 6 different standards. It's, does the project have clear goals? Does it have adequate preparation? Were appropriate methods used? Did it have significant results? Was there effective presentation? And was there reflective critique? So when I started thinking about scholarship in those terms, not of teaching versus research, is that scholarship, but thinking about the work that we do as scholars, it really changed my mindset, and changed my mindset to think that we are in the business of knowledge. That's what we do. That's what makes us different. We're in the business of knowledge. And to be in the business of knowledge, we have to be about scholarship. And that scholarship is about creating new knowledge, but it's also about understanding knowledge. And understanding knowledge when it is put in different application. So when I started thinking about outreach, about scholarship in those terms, it made it much easier for me to understand and get past my angst about whether or not I did a peer-reviewed article. It was more about how do I do knowledge and how do I think of it. So when I think about scholarship, it's about that lens that we have where we really look at a topic very in-depthly and understand it from many different perspectives. So as an engaged scholar, someone who is working in the field and mutually partnering with our community members as equal partners, my understanding of scholarship very much changed. It changed in that I looked at that the university is not the source of knowledge. Our source of knowledge comes from all of us around us. I hate when we say that we're working in the community. We're working with the community because we are part of the community. And when we have that attitude, we look at knowledge and scholarship as not only being owned by the university, but being owned by everyone who is out there. I have learned more from a community member when it comes to designing a research project because they know what will work and what won't work. When it comes to understanding our problems in society, Bruce, I bet you would say that when it comes to the Mid-Ohio Food Bank in Ohio, that director knows as much about food security issues as anybody at the university because he is dealing with it every day. So how do we combine what we know and what our community members know to co-create knowledge, to co-create solutions? The other challenge that I have for us too is as we think about what we do in terms of peer review articles, all of that, that is our method for benchmarking and evaluating quality. And we go through that process so that we can say what we have developed really is good sound science. And we need to do that because our communities deserve it. If we're in the knowledge business, they should have the best of what we have to offer. And that best of what we have to offer is good, sound knowledge. The other challenge we have as extension professionals is to add to that knowledge base of the scholarship of engagement. So how do we know what works? How do we know that this method of delivering content is as good as another method? And we are set up in great ways to be able to do that because we have counties in our state. So you can come up with an approach for doing our engagement work and have one county that does not have that intervention and another county that has that approach. And how do we compare what the outcomes are? So our opportunities for the scholarship of engagement is very important. The third area, which I mentioned, is impact. Now, I, as an assistant director, and for the FCS people who are here, I will tell this now. If I had read one more report that said the percentage of knowledge gained is XYZ, I don't know what I would have done. And as our FCS people know, I kept asking, so what? So the example I want to use is, what have we learned via the internet in the last 15 years? I have learned a lot from the internet. So I want to use this example. About 6-8 years ago, I was going to redo my bathroom. Part of that was laying tile. I will try anything once. So I thought, I'm going to lay the tile. So 11:30 on a Friday night, I'm going to do this on Saturday. 11:30 on Friday night, I found the Georgia Tile Guy. Do you know about him? He has done videos on how every aspect of laying tile. So I am watching this video. I am watching laying cement board, laying the tile, cutting the tile, grouting the tile. I read it. I watch this video over and over. I got it down. If I were to take one of those pre-post tests that we're so good at in Extension, Georgia Tile Guy would have been really happy. My score was fantastic. Next morning I got up, called Ed, my neighbor. Ed, you want to lay my tile for me? So I wrote Ed a check. That was a whole lot better. Knowledge gain-wise, boy, any Extension person would have been proud. That would have looked great on their Vita. The outcome was squat. I could write that check really well. I will admit, I did lay the cement board and I did grout it. But when it came to cutting the tile, I figured Ed was much better at that than me. And that's the challenge I have to us. We need to think differently about how we document the impact of what we're doing. The fact that we're documenting learning and knowledge gain is fabulous. But we need to take it to the next step because our people deserve much better. Our communities deserve much better than just learning what we learn. So when I was at Penn State last week for the Engagement Scholarship Conference, I heard about the Dining with Diabetes program at Penn State, where you've done over almost 3,000 blood tests to document A1C levels prior to and after taking Dining with Diabetes classes. That's important. That's the kind of knowledge we need to know. I'm proud to be a part of the North Central Program Leaders in Family and Consumer Sciences because over the last 18 months, we had hired Battelle to do a documentation of the value of family and consumer sciences. And that was extremely valuable for us because it showed us what we learned, how we were contributing, and how valuable our network is, but it also showed us how much more we have to learn about what we're doing and how we need to change things. So when I talked about what I've learned in Extension and how my attitude about Extension have changed over the years, I really have gone from, are we the answer people, to really thinking that we need to be both the answer people and the question people. Because if we are giving answers without really understanding what our problems are, without using our scholarship, and without being able to tell that story of our impact, our answers don't mean a whole lot. So it's important for us to be both the answer people and the question people. I hope with my comments today, you also catch some similarities to yesterday's speaker, who talked about wicked problems and impact. Larry Roper's comments this morning about leadership, because if we were to follow what Larry talked about in terms of leadership, we would be engaged scholars. And I haven't heard Dr. Cruzado's speech for tomorrow yet, but I've heard her many times. And I really hope that what I said today complements what she says tomorrow about the importance of the engaged university. Again, I want to thank you very much for having me here. This honor means a great deal to me, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the fact that it came from my Ohio colleagues nominating me when they know my flaws as well as my strengths, but also that it came from ESP. So thank you very much.
congratulations, Karen. These are my takeaways. I need to go home and check Ohio State Extension salaries because she thought she was getting rich there. So all OSU employees, let's go ahead and check that out. When you talk about the mega messages, I think we recognize that you know our work and that you've been in the trenches just like we have. When there's real power in the nuances of the things that you said, when you talk about asking the questions being at the very heart of what we do, we all think about the fact that we're the solutions, but the real power of the work is getting the right questions. There is real power in the fact that we are working with the community and not in the community, and I appreciate that. And the fact that it is truly about what our communities deserve, because that is certainly goes back to the root of the land grant mission and the Smith League. So thank you very much and congratulate you. I'm going to ask Ann Berry, our president, to come forward and actually present the Ruby Pin to Dr. Bruns. And I, as all good leaders do, you follow previous leaders' excellent example. And Mark Stillwell last year decided that his fingers were going to be too big to put it on. And so you call on somebody who has the skill set to accomplish the task. And the Ruby Pin has the ruby in it, as well as for every 10 years of service, and this is sponsored by the host chapter, there's a diamond for each set. There are 3 diamonds in this pin. And so I am so glad I'm not doing this right now. But once again, please help me congratulate. And I don't know, do we have any housekeeping items before we move on to the afternoon program? Bob, anything aware of? Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy your next session, and we'll look to see all of you at the Dialogue with Administrators. Thanks.